The temperature inside the engines is 3,400 degrees Fahrenheit, and the air boils at 200 degrees for 3,000 feet behind its huge engines, which speed the plane through the air at over 2,000 miles an hour. The SR-71 Blackbird is still the fastest and highest flying military plane of all time. Traveling at 3 times the speed of sound, it takes photos at 90,000 feet that can pick up the license plates on cars in a parking lot. It was designed by Lockheed in 1962 and was the aviation equivalent of redesigning the wheel. Its titanium body is built to withstand extreme kinetic heat. Its aerodynamic design baffles radar, and it's powered by 2 of the largest jet engines ever built.
When you look at the airplane, it looks very, very elegant and very purpose-built. You just get the idea that this thing wants to go fast and go very high, and it's really built to do that. You get an idea that you really got a thoroughbred on your hands here. This particular wing, which is called a delta wing, is really efficient as a high-speed cruise platform, and it also gives the airplane very good stability at low air speeds, which is required since it doesn't use any flaps for takeoff or for landing. The tails have kind of an unusual design in that the bulk of the tail really forms the rudder. The tails are tilted inboard so that the vortex, which comes off the front of the airplane, that high-energy vortex is superimposed over the rudders and vertical tails at slow air speeds. It puts a lot of high-energy air back there and makes them very, very effective. The fuselage of the airplane has kind of an outer shell, and that outer shell is called a chine area. And that chine area is particularly useful for optimizing the airplane for very, very high-speed cruise. This airplane is probably one of the first stealth airplanes, and the design of the chines, as well as the material used to build the chines, and the paint, which is iron impregnated, all help towards contributing to the stealthy design of the airplane. It was really one of the first, if not the first, airplane that had stealth built into it.
34 years after it was first introduced, the Blackbird is still providing its pilots with a unique experience.
I've seen 5 sunrises and sunsets in one day. We've taken off out of Mildenhall in England at lunch and landed in Beale in California for breakfast.
Virtually every flight, when you successfully make it up to Mach 3 or thereabouts, the thought of hurtling your body through space or through the atmosphere, literally faster than a bullet, and you can accelerate. Look out the window and it's crystal clear. There's never any weather at our cruise altitudes. The sky is a beautiful blue, and nothing is moving. And you look inside and hopefully nothing is moving, with the exception of the distance indicator, which is clicking off a mile about every 2 seconds. But it's totally serene, almost euphoric.
The faster the plane, the more dangerous it is for the pilot. An ingenious way had to be invented to throw the pilot clear of the tail. The first successful ejection from a plane happened in 1943 in Germany, and since then, rocket-powered ejection seats have saved the lives of 15,000 airmen. 150 million years before man took to the skies, the world's first flying animals were already airborne. The pterodactyl was the largest creature ever to fly, with wings measuring 45 feet across. These wings were flaps of skin, stretched on bony frames that allowed the animals to soar, but gave them little propulsion. They were like the sails of a boat, and its large head and neck was used as a rudder. Modern birds fly with wings that give them lift as well as propulsion. When taking off or landing, they extend outer feathers on the ends of their wings, which give them a larger surface area and therefore more stability at low speeds. These design features would take man thousands of years to learn. Like a bird, the wings of a plane are flat at the bottom with a highly curved top surface. The low pressure on top pulls the wing, while the higher pressure underneath pushes it upward. This simple scientific principle allows a huge hulk of steel and aluminum to become a graceful airplane. Today, civilian aircraft are rigorously tested to withstand the extreme pressures of almost continuous flight. This wing from a Boeing 777 can be bent 24 feet and can withstand turbulence of up to 150% more than it is ever likely to experience. Modern wings are also flying fuel tanks, in which the fuel is continuously redistributed to give the plane stability. Although the fuel is diluted with special non-flammable chemicals, a plane always runs the risk of becoming a fireball. The Wright brothers' first powered flight in December 1903 lasted 12 seconds and covered 120 feet. The flimsy wings were built of wood and canvas, curved upwards like those of a bird. But these wings flew mankind into the future and became the basis for a century of design innovation. It's astonishing that within just half a century, man would invent wings capable of traveling 6 times the speed of sound. In 1959, small, thin wings, designed for efficient ultra-high-speed flight, allowed the X-15 to become the fastest experimental rocket plane of all time. It shot through the air at an incredible 4,500 miles per hour, at a record 350,000 feet high. The ingenious F-111 fighter is built with variable geometry wings. They are mechanically swept back in flight for high speed, forming a triangle with the tail. Concorde's wings are fixed in a permanent triangle. The delta wing design is essential for flight at supersonic speeds. Without it, shock waves generated by the nose would hit the wing tips and make it crash. And the astonishing forward-swept wings of the Grumman X-29 were designed for ultra-maneuverability. It was so unstable, it needed computers to correct its flight path 40 times a second. But the ultimate design of the present and the future is the amazing B-2 strategic bomber. Designed to completely avoid enemy radar, this plane doesn't have wings. It is one. With all this great innovation, man is now capable of not only flying faster and higher than a bird, he is also now vastly more maneuverable. The Russian-built Sukhoi 31 is highly powered and incredibly agile. It's designed to be the best aerobatics plane in the world.
What makes a really great aerobatic airplane is actually a very unstable aircraft. It wants to roll or pitch down or up. The ailerons, for instance, are about the size of what they put on a 727. This makes the aircraft roll very fast. Also, the rudder and the elevator are very large in size, which makes it very touchy, but it gives the aircraft a vast amount of control. The landing gear is made out of titanium alloy, which is very light and very strong. The engine on this aircraft is a 9-cylinder radial engine made in Russia. It develops a very high amount of horsepower. Combined with the high horsepower of the engine into the geared down prop creates a real high amount of thrust, which makes the aircraft accelerate very quickly. The type of aerobatics that we're doing, we're pushing the limits of the aircraft. Some pilots are safety margin below the limits. Some pilots fly a little bit above the limits.
The men and women who pilot the Sukhoi 31 are flying more and more difficult maneuvers, performing their stunts closer and closer to the ground. G-force is the gravitational pressure exerted on a pilot when they bank abruptly or turn upside down. It forces blood to either the head or feet and can knock a person out. Fighter pilots wear G-suits to stop them from blacking out. Eric Hagenson's only protection is a crash helmet.
The sport of aerobatics can be dangerous. Pilots that try to fly low to the ground have killed themselves, usually doing much more extreme type aerobatics. Tumbling the aircraft around and around, making it look like the aircraft's more out of control. In the air show business, there are a few more fatalities, but we're control-orientated type of people.
American champion Rick Masigui's specialty was to cut his engine in mid-flight. Tragically, in 1996, he died practicing a similar maneuver. This extreme machine is about to take its pilots to the very edge of space.
going above Armstrong's line, which is where the outside pressure gets so little that the gases in my blood would come out of suspension. My blood would basically boil.
These pilots are about to embark on a grueling 10-hour journey. They are hooked up to an oxygen-breathing apparatus and a urine tube. They will have to fight off muscle cramps, hunger, and fatigue. Their companion throughout their mission is the incredible U-2. In the late 1950s, it was built to travel 15,000 feet higher than any Soviet plane or missile. Because it operates at such extreme height, it has to be light. Every extra pound in weight costs 1 foot in altitude. The fuselage is built of paper-thin aluminum. The giant wings are essential to fly at high altitude, where the thin air gives little lift. Normal landing gear is replaced by an unstable bicycle system. It also has 2 small wheels that support its wings until takeoff when they are jettisoned. Once, 57 Russian fighters were scrambled to unsuccessfully intercept just one U-2. And it is still considered by many as the greatest intelligence coup of all time. Taking reconnaissance pictures at 90,000 feet, it discovered missiles in Cuba, planes in Siberia, Iraqi tanks in Kuwait, and more recently, mass graves in Bosnia. The U-2's only difficulty is returning home after one of these 10-hour missions. With only 2 sets of wheels on which to land, every touchdown is a potential disaster. Fellow pilots talk the plane down from a pursuit car traveling at over 100 miles an hour. One simple mistake and the U-2 will crash. It's like landing on a tightrope.
At the T. 8, 6, 5, 4, 4. There's 3.5, back to 4, 5. 3, 3.5, 2.
Designing the ultimate warplane went beyond extreme height and speed. It had to be invisible. Dawn, New Mexico. The F-117 was the world's first stealth plane. Designed to be undetectable by radar, it can fly into dangerous enemy airspace and surgically strike at high-priority communications targets and airfields. Its highly angled body deflects radar. It is covered in radar-absorbent paint, and the heat from its jet engines is hidden from the ground. Holloman Air Force Base is the home of the F-117 Nighthawk.
When I saw the airplane the first time, the same thought went through my head that went through everybody else's, and that's, does this thing actually fly? The F-117 was designed to deflect any radar waves that were shot at it, and then to absorb any other radar waves that weren't deflected. The exhaust of the aircraft was also designed to reduce the infrared or heat signature. The exhaust from each engine is spread out along the back of the aircraft and deflected upwards. The aircraft is also unusual in that it has elevons. The elevons control both the pitch and the roll of the aircraft. The computer decides how much of each to give the pilot.
To avoid the most dangerous enemy radar and missile locations, each flight plan is created by highly sophisticated computers. The data is loaded onto the plane's onboard computer, which, if needed, can fly the whole mission completely unaided.
My first mission in Desert Storm was to attack 2 air defense control centers in western Iraq so that the coalition forces could gain air superiority quickly. Most of the pilots were very confident in the aircraft performance and that the aircraft would be able to do its mission. But there's always that element of doubt. You never know it until you try it.
"42 planes flew in Desert Storm. They each carried 2 laser-guided bombs, targeted by a guidance system, which provides a video image to the pilot, even at night. 6 weeks of Desert Storm proved beyond doubt that the F-117 is the most capable surgical strike aircraft in the history of warfare. Although Baghdad was the most heavily defended city in the world, with 16,000 missiles and 3,000 anti-aircraft guns, the Nighthawk Squadron flew 7,500 hours without a single loss. Sometimes stealth is not important. This is the world's largest super transporter, the European Beluga. It's designed to carry complete wings and whole fuselage sections. It could be called the mutant nephew of the first super transporter, the infamous Spruce Goose, designed by Howard Hughes to transport troops and tanks to Europe in World War II. This huge airplane was intended to replace the Allied ships being blasted out of the water by German U-boats. Its body design was similar to a ship. Constructed of birch rather than spruce, the plane had a larger hull than most 19th century clipper ships. It was only 13 feet shorter than a jumbo jet. With a tail 114 feet across and a weight of 200 tons, detractors considered the plane unflyable. Hughes finally completed it at the end of World War II, too late to be of any real use, and it became a remarkable novelty, flown just once, for 60 seconds, before returning to its climate-controlled hangar. Seaplanes had been flying very successfully for 30 years before the flight of the Spruce Goose. The British had become seaplane pioneers because they had to fly to corners of their empire where there were no runways. The short Sunderland was originally designed as a U-boat destroyer. Today, 50 years after the end of World War II, there is only one still flying, owned by millionaire airplane collector Kermit Weeks.
This short Sunderland was nicknamed by the Germans because of so many machine guns sticking out of it. They nicknamed it the Flying Porcupine, and its defense, although it was a very slow airplane, its real only defense was to get down low over the water and make the Germans come in from the top. If they took a bullet through the belly, they still have to land on the water again, and there's an obvious leak right there. They actually used to have little rubber plugs that they could go through the hull and stick them out and make a temporary patch so they could land back again before they could do a permanent patch on it.
A flying boat is basically a ship's hull with a float on each wing to keep it buoyant. Wings are high up to keep the propellers out of the water. Steering on the water is controlled by propeller speed alone, and wheels are screwed into place when land maintenance is essential. Although the short Sunderland was later converted into a luxury passenger carrier, the seaplane ultimately died out. After the widespread construction of concrete runways during the Second World War, there was no longer any need for planes that landed on water.
I think it would be more of an extreme boat than it would be an airplane. It is so unique in its element, which is the water. The airplane has no reversible propellers, has no brakes, it has no rudder for the water. Its only steering is by differential throttles on the outboard engines. Depending on the different conditions and the wind and the currents and stuff, it can be a very interesting and a very big challenge to operate on the water. It's my favorite part of operating the airplane.
The Grumman Duck is a true amphibian, designed with a one-piece floating hull and wind-down wheels that allow it to take off from land or sea. Originally a U.S. Navy reconnaissance and rescue plane, it is the ultimate versatile amphibian flying machine. Every year, 1% of the world's surface is destroyed by fire. There is only one plane in the world built to fight it. the Canadair CL-415. It is designed to land and take off from water, and in 12 seconds it can scoop up to 1,600 gallons into its hold. This extreme plane is built to withstand the corrosion of water and the heat of intense forest fires. These fires can reach over 300 feet in height and release the same energy as a nuclear bomb every 10 minutes. The pilots who fly them have one of the toughest jobs in aviation. They need to maneuver at low altitudes and are continually buffeted by the turbulence created by the raging fires. This is a unique airplane designed to fight the extremes of nature. One of the most unusual planes ever designed flies even lower and closer to the water. A highly secret project run by top Soviet scientists during the Cold War was set up to study something known as ground effect. When a vehicle travels close above the water, it compacts the air underneath it, cushions the vehicle, and greatly increases its speed and efficiency. The result of this research was the astonishing Ekranoplan. Larger than a jumbo jet, it holds the world's record for the greatest lift of any aircraft, an amazing 1,000 tons. This extraordinary machine is powered by 8 huge jet engines, travels at 300 miles per hour only feet above the water, and could carry 1,000 Soviet Marines. Since the Cold War, the project has been crippled by financial problems. It was once seen as the future of civilian and troop transportation. Today, it is sitting in dry dock. Every new invention and leap forward in aviation is short-lived. The changes in design have been so rapid over the last 100 years that many planes became obsolete as soon as they were built. But thrust vectoring is here to stay. It is the most revolutionary aeronautical innovation since stealth technology. Jet engines produce thrust with their exhaust gases. If redirected with a movable nozzle, this thrust can dramatically change the direction of a plane, allowing it to travel at a 90-degree angle or even backwards. NASA is currently conducting tests that will use thrust vectoring at supersonic speeds. Every wing creates turbulence close to its surface. This creates drag and makes the plane slower and inefficient. The faster the plane, the worse the turbulence. F-16s are currently being tested with millions of tiny holes drilled into their wings. Any turbulent air is literally sucked through the holes to create a smoother airflow and more efficient flight.
Hey, Tom, tanker's there at 12 o'clock. We're just going to kind of come up behind you.
NASA hopes this technology will eventually lead to a new generation of supersonic civilian planes, capable of carrying up to 800 passengers. The futuristic fighter plane X-36 already incorporates a laminar airflow system and thrust vectoring. Its unique feature is that it has no vertical or horizontal tail.
We hope as a result of the research we conduct here with the X-36 that we'll increase the body of knowledge to improve confidence to move forward with tailless agile fighters. If that's the case, then you may see a new generation of fighter aircraft emerge that feature no vertical tails.
The highly secret reconnaissance plane Dark Star is the first step that will ultimately lead to a new generation of unmanned warplanes, flown by remote control by pilots in protected bunkers.
I would expect to see some battlefield situations where it's not worth putting human life at risk, and you'll see a much greater utilization of remotely piloted aircraft in a number of different battlefield scenarios, and also for those missions that are so-called dirty, dull, and dangerous.
The dirty, dull, and dangerous frontline fighter for the immediate future is the F-22. Still being fully developed, it is run by computers capable of making 350 million decisions per second. The highly classified cockpit is fully digital. 6 color monitors give the pilot a panoramic view night or day. He also has a helmet-mounted display and will soon have 3D displays and voice control. The F-22 is a true stealth plane. It's invisible to the enemy and travels at 1,600 miles per hour. Most fighter planes can fly faster than sound for only a matter of minutes, but the F-22 can fly its whole mission at supersonic speed. It is the most maneuverable plane in the world, incorporating the latest thrust vectoring engineering, allowing it to attack at any angle. With its superior speed and stealth, this fighter plane has earned the reputation of first look, first kill. This extreme machine is where the present meets the future. The B-2 is the most highly advanced bomber in the world. It is also the most expensive, costing a staggering $2 billion apiece. is incredibly stealthy, capable of penetrating enemy airspace and attacking with nuclear weapons. The B-2 travels at only 475 miles per hour. It doesn't need to travel any faster. No one can detect it. Targets are spotted by radar and attacked without warning. 80% of the B-2 is built from composite materials, and the entire aircraft is a flying wing. The 4 engines are hidden within its body so that the heat of afterburners can't be detected by heat-seeking missiles. The B-2 will operate in conjunction with the more angular radar-deflective F-117, the most advanced military planes in active service. In a mere 100 years, the threat of war and the human thirst for adventure have driven us to build extreme machines that can hurtle through the atmosphere at 6 times the speed of sound, at the very edge of space. The airplane has far exceeded our once simple dream to soar with the birds. It has made us master of the skies.